So this is my coursework for the Programmable Logic Controls module, ER3202. So using Siemens, this is power is connected to the power module, which is then connected to the PLC. PLC is then connected through an Ethernet cable into an Ethernet to USB adapter into a laptop. So as for the code, the start sequence, this is the stop button and the start button, the factory IO run. These are the network inputs. The factory IO is then linked to all the conveyors, the emitter and remover, so this is there. So when the start button is pressed, factory IO run is then linked to all of these then start. This is here to as it is latched, so that once the start button is pressed, it does not need to be held and it will carry on. As for the scale, so the scale is an analog input. So using the analog input, it's connected to the analog differential triggers for the lightweight and heavyweight. So using the lightweight, for the lightweight pusher, you use the lightweight trigger and a latching relay. So the on-delay timer is used for 3.4 seconds. So then once the box passes the diffuse sensor in the middle of the weighing scale, the pusher has a 3.4 second on-delay timer to then where it'll push it, which is this connection here. So the trigger will go to the sensor and then it'll wrap the latching relay is used to reset the front limit of the trigger, of the pusher. So this is to avoid the pusher being stuck out and blocking the rest of the conveyors and blocking the boxes. So this will mean that once it's pushed out, it will come back in. The heavyweight pusher follows a similar principle with the latching relays to reset it after the sensor. The on-delay timer for this is set to 2 seconds as it is the first pusher needed. And this is the same arrangement as the lightweight pusher, and the front limit is then reset using the latching relay. For the lightweight counter, so there's the diffuse sensor, which is another network input. The diffuse sensor is placed just before the remover. So this is then, so it counts what is going into the remover. So this counting sensor is connected to an edge-triggered wiping relay. This is used to remove the chance of the sensor taking multiple readings at once for one box and counting it multiple times. So this just sends one pulse for 1 second. So it'll send one pulse and it will only count one box. Well, it will only count one for one box. This is then connected to the counter, which is then into the digital to analog converter, which then is used to connect to the digital display in factory IO to give the reading of every box that's counted. The heavyweight sensor works essentially the same, but using the other diffuse sensor that's placed at the end of that, and which it follows into the counter, and the counter into the D to A converter, and then that into the digital display as well. So if I download this into the PLC, and then go to factory IO, and then Siemens logo and connect. So this is how I've laid it out. So my push button normally closed is my off button and normally open is my start button. The three sensors are labelled here as the network inputs. And same with the two pusher front limits. The conveyor scale weight is the other input that is used to then, once that is weighed, the timer will then start, the on-delay timer will start. So the factory IO run is one of these outputs, same as the pusher 2 and pusher 1. And then all of these Q8 to Q15 are all of the conveyors, emitters and removers that are connected to factory IO run. So if I start this, press play, and then press the start button, the operation runs, and the small box passes the weighing scale and goes to the end, where it's pushed to the diffuse sensor. The diffuse sensor picks it up and marks it as 1. It goes to past the diffuse sensor, which marks it as 2. And then this will keep counting 1, and you just press the off button, stop button, and it stops.